Hi, welcome to the Fit and Healthy Today show. And today our topic matter is on, per customer request, fibromyalgia syndrome, if I can get that out of my mouth. There's a lot of confusion about what this disorder actually is, and it's a very difficult to diagnose syndrome. The best way for diagnostics is to take, there's certain 18 types of pressure points, and if your doctor or healthcare professional presses on any of these and you have pain in 11 of these areas, chances are good you have fibromyalgia. What it is it's a rheumatic disorder characterized by achy, throbby, kind of muscular pain, and it can move around in these different areas, the 18 spots. And if you need help with that, you can stop by the Lompoc store and I can kind of point out those points that you can discuss with your doctor and test it on yourself, or you can actually look that up online. But mostly it affects women, and we don't know particularly why, other than maybe might be some of the root triggers and root causes that seem to trigger fibromyalgia. Most severe when people wake up, and it seems to gradually dissipate throughout the day. But there are people, when it's severe, that are basically incapacitated for days. So that being the case, let's see what we can give you a little bit better description, a little bit more about what the triggers are, and obviously avoiding some of the triggers so that we don't trigger fibromyalgia. The symptoms include particularly fatigue and sleep disturbances. People that have fibromyalgia do not get very good dreaming REM sleep. They just don't. So actually, it makes them feel absolutely exhausted. There's certain brainwave patterns that seem to be exerted as a result of this disorder. Anxiety, depression, dizziness and headaches, difficulty concentrating. Obviously, a lot of these things can be due to pure sleep disturbances, whether it's sleep apnea or other disorders that we'll talk about, that your doctor should test you for before obviously diagnosing fibromyalgia. Irritable bowel syndrome, your skin will tingle, jaws will hurt, heart palpitations, and heightened senses. Oh, too loud, too bright, doesn't smell good. All that seems to be affected by particular types of brainwave patterns and how a person that has fibromyalgia receives and processes information. Hopefully something doctors, so far I've not seen a very good ability to diagnose this particular syndrome, but hopefully maybe this will give you information to research so that you can help your doctor if you suspect you have this. Well, we don't really know what the actual cause is. We can't say, okay, this is or this is, but there seems to be some common features among people that suffer from fibromyalgia that seem to be these things happened to them before they had this disorder occur. Oftentimes, they have a lot of sleep issues. They'll be on sleep medications, and oftentimes throughout the years, they will have overexerted themselves, gone through a traumatic event, a divorce, spouse dying, kids sick, taking care of sick parents, can all trigger this extreme amount of stress that physiologically affects us both psychologically and physically. Chemical imbalances in the brain, especially that of serotonin. So if someone's on a lot of antibiotics, and remember the majority of your serotonin is produced in your bowel, not in your head, boy, you have issues with irritable bowel or anything involving the bowel, that can be a trigger for fibromyalgia. Infected with other viruses, such as Epstein-Barr. A lot of people who have Epstein-Barr or chronic fatigue syndrome, which tends to affect the nerves more than the muscle tissues. Sometimes if you get a viral infection, that will be a trigger for fibromyalgia. It just kind of sits there and waits. Hormone imbalances, particularly thyroid hormone imbalances, can trigger fibromyalgia. Poor digestion, detoxification. Once again, we talked about how serotonin is produced in the bowel. If you're not detoxing, eating lousy food on a cellular level, the body can't repair itself. Good old hamburgers and hot dogs and all those things are the staple of your diet. Oh boy, besides the other things that we've talked about over the last year and a half, this can be triggered. Toxic metal exposure, particularly from mercury amalgam fillings. Mercury, lead, heavy metal exposure can contribute both neurological and muscular disorders, including fibromyalgia. Blood sugar imbalances. They estimate 1/5 of our population in the next 10 years or so will have diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Scary, very scary thought. And this is just not among the elderly, it's among the young and among the middle-aged people, people in my age category. If you've got a lot of candida or parasites, once again, throughout the body on a muscular, cellular level and in the bowel. Parasites and candida affect the bowel. Nutritional deficiencies, particularly minerals. So if your doctor says you can get all your stuff from your diet, he's wrong. I'll say that point blank. He's wrong. The commercial farming that we have today, and I can say that because I was in agriculture and I have an ag background in the dairy business, and I got to tell you, the soil ain't what it was. It doesn't have the minerals and necessary nutrients anymore for us to be healthy. So when the news tells you you can get this from your food, they're full of absolutely, they're wrong. Buildup of phosphate or uric acid, and that comes from eating tons and tons of meat, fats, and sugars, and processed carbohydrates that can cause that uric acid buildup. Structural abnormalities and accidents, particularly if you get in a car accident. I have several customers who were in a car accident and got fibromyalgia. We don't know whether or not it messed with their spinal column, whether or not it had something to do with the trauma that they went through. All we know is it triggered fibromyalgia. The key is here is these lead, and I underline this and highlighted this, this leads to a defect on how cells produce energy in the mitochondria. The mitochondria in your cells, and here we go, this is a little bit of high school biology, are the powerhouses of the cells. People who have fibromyalgia, the powerhouses go, turn the electricity down. Hence the muscles will hurt, other things occur, all the other disturbances that we discussed about on symptoms occur. The diet for people that have fibromyalgia has to be strict. No one way or the other, it's got to be strict. And 50% of it needs to come from raw, uncooked foods. Point blank. If you're out there eating the good old burger diet and you got fibromyalgia, you're going to always hurt. And you're going to complain and you're going to gripe. And there's something that you can do about it. That's very irritating for people around you when you sit and complain and gripe and you do nothing. Here's something that you can do that's very proactive. Raw vegetables, especially greens. Lots and lots of greens. They oxygenate, they alkali the blood. Lots of lean proteins. And we're talking about 5 meals, 6 meals a day. We're going to spread this out throughout the day. That involves some source of protein. It's actually very good for weight loss and weight maintenance as well. But protein helps the brain wake up. It keeps the sugar stable, along with things like nuts and fatty acids, fish, avocados, and then some of the supplements we'll talk about as well too. Cultured milk, yogurt products, particularly kefir and yogurts, can be helpful, but oftentimes they're not sufficient. We usually require a higher dosage. These are 1 million, and the pills you can get are in the billions. So, glass of water every 2 hours. I have more people complain about issues with fibromyalgia. They don't drink water. I don't know how they expect their body to detox and run, considering we're a majority of water. How do you maintain the body without adequate amounts of water? You must. Okay? No excuses. You just got to do it. Consider a vegetable juice fasting maybe for 3 days. It can jumpstart, get things moving, alkali the blood, get you to hurt a lot less. My job is to give you as much information as I can so you don't hurt no more. And maybe, just maybe, and I've seen this many times, you no longer have fibromyalgia. In my opinion, it is reversible. Not everybody will agree with me, but I think a lot of it has to do with those triggers that we listed above. When we correct those triggers, you don't have fibromyalgia no more. Avoiding saturated fats, particularly beef fat, heavy meat fats, trans fatty acids, it causes a lot of inflammation, something called arachidonic acid, and you need a little bit of arachidonic acid for cellular repair, but you get too much, oh boy, you're going to hurt. It's going to produce certain types of prostaglandins that are going to cause you intense amount of pain. Limit consumption, and this goes for arthritic patients as well. You're going to limit the consumption of peppers, eggplants, tomatoes, and potatoes. They have a chemical called solanine, which blocks enzyme activity in the muscle. So think about that in terms of whenever you have any muscle pains, you kind of want to avoid these things. Even muscle aches and pains from other sources as well, too. Avoiding caffeine, alcohol, or sugar is an absolute must. They make you acidic. When you're acidic, you're going to hurt all the time. I had someone come in today, she drinks 8 cups of coffee a day, and she wonders why she hurts all the time. An excellent antioxidant, but she's acidic. Her muscles and her nerves, she can't understand why she hurts. Get off most of the coffee. A cup, 2 a day, that's okay. You know, preferably organic, but because it doesn't have all the chemical solvents. But go to look for low acid coffees, 1 or 2 cups a day. Now, a lot of people with fibromyalgia do not feel like exercising. I want to sit in my chair and just moan in my pain. No. You people out there who have spouses or kids that have this, get them up and get them moving. The moment they sit down, they're never going to get up from that chair. You've got to get them walking. They can do band exercises, yoga, stretching, all those times. Now, we're not talking strenuous exercise because in fibromyalgia people, this actually can trigger issues. But we're talking about 30 minutes a day, at least 30 minutes, 3 or 4 days a week, where you're moving and you're stretching and you're walking, you're getting things moving. Very important clinical studies on movement in fibromyalgia and pain reduction. Before you say, oh, I got fibromyalgia, I think you need to have your physician and utilize his expertise as far as testing procedures are done. Test for and see whether or not you've got depression. Anemia, low iron levels, low B12 levels can cause muscle aches and pains and headaches and all kinds of things. I had a lady come in today. Doctor never bothered to check her iron levels. Her eyes were blacker than coal and other symptoms she had for iron. And I told her, it says, go in your doc, have your iron levels checked. I think your iron is very, very low. So, hepatitis, Lyme's, thyroid. These are all things that need to be checked for. It's easy to say you got fibromyalgia. Check for these things first, okay? I could give you 5 pages of supplements that I know that help with different things for fibromyalgia. I'm going to just touch upon the main ones that I think are the most important, okay? Magnesium citrate, actually it should say glycinate, that should be a G instead of an F, a little bit of finger play on there. Or aspartate, 250 milligrams 3 times a day. This is needed for serotonin production. You docs out there who are putting people on serotonin reuptake inhibitors, you might want to consider that your patients might be magnesium deficient. It also relaxes the muscles, makes a spasm a lot less, particularly when you combine it with a little bit of calcium citrate or bone sources of calcium. Vitamin D, lots of study on vitamin D and immune and pain with fibromyalgia. Everything on here I'm listing has studies. Sometimes I'll mention it, but everything on here has studies to back it up. So this isn't just Heike talking out her mouth. This is studies, Mayo Clinic, university types of studies. Malic acid increases cellular energy. 5-HTP is a precursor to the brain that increases serotonin output. Raising the serotonin helps you sleep, helps kill pain. You can't take 5-HTP though when you're on antidepressants. Not a good idea. SAMe helps with depression, pain, feed, stiffness. Only a 6-week study, being on for 6 weeks, made a significant difference for people. So it wasn't even a lengthy study. After 6 weeks, people already felt